Hello, welcome to the Rooms with Ronald podcast, brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. I'm your host, Ronald Harrington. In 2023, I set an intention to shop 100 apartment communities to see how leasing was evolving around the country. Rooms with Ronald was born out of that experience. In this series, I share my experiences and engage in meaningful conversations with other professionals in the industry as we discuss all things related to leasing and marketing. Join in as we expand the Rooms with Ronald experiment. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Rooms with Ronald. I'm your host, Ronald Harrington, and today we are going to be talking about all things centralized leasing. I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Tyler Marker, who is the Director of Enterprise for J. Turner Research. Tyler, thank you so much for having this conversation with me.
Well, thank you so much for having me and that wonderful introduction. Thank you. Don't make my head any bigger than it's going to be.
I thought I was just trying to bring it down a little bit.
Yeah, humble. We're humble here. Absolutely.
Very demure.
Yes, very mindful.
So Tyler, I don't think there is a better person to have this conversation with about centralized leasing and kind of what that means for our on-site teams, because I feel there is a lot of uncertainty when it comes to centralized for on-site teams, right? And it's still a very important topic today. I mean, we've been talking about centralized leasing now for 5 years, a long time, right? If
Yeah.
not longer. And we're still seeing conferences have continually sessions and sessions. So that tells me that it's here to stay and we're continuing to evolve what that means, which is great in a sense, because if you know, multifamily does not seem to evolve things over time. Like once it's there, it just stays there, right?
Yeah.
And so we're bringing new perspectives. And I think that it is important for us to kind of talk about what it means for our on-site teams, how the corporate people can be intentional about communicating that. And even maybe if we have people listening that aren't, familiar with centralized leasing, maybe their company isn't doing it. Hopefully it might excite them enough to talk about that topic with their manager or their leadership and kind of, be that pioneer in their company for that.
It's really exciting because it really does benefit both the company from the bottom line perspective, but it also can take a employee-centric approach to it so that you're a dynamic employer in this industry where we all struggle to retain and attract talent. And so this can really help that.
Yeah. And, people might be curious as to why I have the director of enterprise for a research company on talking about centralization, right? How does that make sense? But, you are one of the few people that kind of are a well-rounded multifamily veteran, right? You've worked for association.
Veteran, calm down.
You
Rush it. Don't rush it.
You worked in, on-site and operations. You worked in the corporate level. I mean, we go way back. We won't say how long we go back because then that's going to be us both. And we're both only 23. So, when you were with your previous company, you were kind of tasked there with setting up this kind of model. So let's talk about kind of what you did and how it worked.
Yeah. And so at my previous role as the director of marketing and professional development, I was asked to, with the work of our CTO in partnership with him, to create what a centralized model would look like at our company, and they were very clear with, you don't have to go with industry norms. Go with what you think it should look like and the way you think it'll work for our people and our company. And so that was a lot of fun to have that creative freedom in that and the trust that they placed in me to do that. And what we did, and our guiding light, we totally stole it from FedEx, was to automate the process and humanize the experience. We wrote that on the whiteboard at the start of it, and we never forgot it. And what we did was we decided to move in a role that was specialized leasing rather than centralized leasing. And there's a difference. There is a difference there. And the specialized approach really taps into the different ways we make money as a company and the unique strengths and abilities of people. And so that way we are being intentional about who we bring into roles and the job that they do. And so we created two separate roles at our corporate office, and that was the resident relations specialist and the leasing specialist. They handled those two different buckets of the work. And so our leasing specialist would handle everything from lead to lease execution. From there, it would be handed over to our resident relations specialist. And we knew that change management would be crucial to this. So once we had the ideas and the system worked out and the structure and the technology ready to go and we were ready to communicate this, it was really important that we did it intentionally because we didn't want to cause one of our first setbacks we predicted could happen if we didn't do it right was a mass exodus of, well, my job's going away. They're going to hire someone new or promote someone else, and I'm going to be obsolete. So, bye. Thanks for the paycheck. We wanted to avoid that because we had great people that we wanted to place in those roles. And so while we were figuring out the structure and the technology, we were also simultaneously creating surveys. And I sent those out throughout our company of different change scenarios and how they would respond and react to those changes. And so over time, over the course of 8 months, 4 surveys throughout the company, we actually gathered our company's change grid of how adapt to change or averse to change are our people as a whole. And based on that change grid, I could see how resistant they could be from the time change is communicated, going right to resistance. They're like, wait. We're doing a good job. We're meeting our occupancy goals. Why is this happening? What does it mean for me? We as people do two things and two things only. We take in information, we make decisions. And if we can't make a decision, it's because we don't have enough information. And if we make a bad decision, that's also because we probably didn't have enough information to make a good one. And so it was our responsibility as corporate to give our people enough information to make the best decision for themselves. And so what we did was based on that change grid, I knew how I needed to communicate this. So we sent out a very carefully and very well worded notice to employees. And we knew that we needed to give them a 3-week window for emotional reactions. They would not, that is how we are as people, right? We have an emotional reaction to something before we can think logically. And so we put this notification out. 3 weeks later, we had a live virtual town hall with myself, our CTO, and our COO. We had a survey sent out with any questions they might have, where they could pre-submit questions anonymously, truly anonymously. I had no idea who asked them. I then categorized those questions by the various topics, and those were the questions we addressed on the town hall live for everyone 3 weeks after we put out this notification. From there, we updated the company on a bi-weekly basis of the status, how things are going, what is happening, the achievements, the setbacks, what are we trying to do to correct? And we did that all throughout our pilot process. And I'm very proud to say that in all of that, not one person left. Not one.
So you kind of talked about, what you're specialized and you went that route. What is your vision of centralized, right? Because you said there are two different things. So kind of what did you, when you were experimenting with this, did you see as a centralized model? And then what made you choose to go the specialized?
Yeah, and I think in many ways they're one and the same. They have a lot of similarities. I think a centralized approach is more company focused on its goals, and the employees need to fit that mold, right? A specialized approach really takes into consideration your people, their strengths, what would fit them best. When we designed these two roles, we made the compensation the same. They had different sets of KPIs, but the same earning potential for those, so that money was not a motivator. When we would present these roles to people, that was not a motivator to take one over the other. It really turned into, oh, that's me. I can do that job. That's my role. They self-sorted. And so then, once we were through our pilot, the people had already self-sorted into their appropriate role, the right people in the right seat, and we had a 0% turnover rate at our specialized model.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
and I think like for me, I think it all comes down to words, right? Like when you kind of start saying something to employees like centralized, it creates this fear, right? Like we think of, you know, a lot of people think of like credit card companies or like call centers is what
Call centers. Yep.
as soon as you say centralized, they think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in a call center and not what I want
I'm
to
going to
do.
have to move. Yep.
Right. And then there becomes this instant fear too of like, we don't have the technology to do this. Like I hear this a lot of times on, but when you say specialized, that makes it sound more intriguing, right? And things that I want to do. And I love that you did like the two different buckets because in my mind, I even think like in what I've seen and what, you know, I've tried to build in the past is people are good at different things when it comes to leasing, right? There are some people who are phenomenal at getting like them from the prospect to the book of the appointment. Like they just have that gift on the phone or via email that gets people excited. And then sometimes they're not so great at the close, right? They don't like to get them on and say, you know, hey Tyler, would you like to apply for the apartment today, right?
Right.
They that's not their comfortability, but they love like working the leads. They just don't like touring. And there's some people who are great closers, but they can't get people in the door because they don't have the gift of that on the marketing side and wording and emails. They're better in person, you know. And so like creating a model like that almost, you know, opens up opportunities in that way. So there's many different ways to do to skin the cat essentially, right? So, what do you think about it from the aspect of why, as an on site team member, when someone comes to me and they say, you know, hey, we're going to do centralized or we're going to do specialized, why should I be excited for this?
For us in our model, it really worked to their benefit because let's think about it. On site, traditionally, you're doing so many different hats and tasks that aren't even related to your job. And you're oftentimes bogged down with mundane, routine, repetitive work, all those emails, all those texts. But then you also got to make sure you return the phone calls and play the voicemails and respond to those. We hired you because you could shine in person, you could shine in front of people, or you had a skill set, like you mentioned, to get leads to a tour. Or once they're toured, you know how to tour them and you know how to close on them. Or once they're a resident, you know how to keep that relationship going and really make sure they're satisfied so that they're more likely to renew. You're good. We hired you because you're good at one of or many of those things. And then we sit you in front of a computer all day and we turn you into a bot. We turn you into that. And you don't get to use the things you're really good at on the whole. And so we took technology that could do those mundane tasks. We heard that from other companies, employees saying, "Oh, well, they're embracing technology. My job's going to go." No, no, no. Your job is now going to be more authentic to what it actually is supposed to be. We're taking that ridiculous repetitive work off of you, and you're now able to focus on what really matters and what you're good at. And so when if I were an on-site employee during a time when a company came to us and said, we are moving in a centralized or specialized direction, I would get excited to learn more about that. How are we doing that? What does it look like? What kind of technology are we going to use? What kind of skills are you needing on the team? And position yourself to do that. And what it meant for our teams, we were able to pay them better. They got big salary increases, their KPIs earning potential increased, they were making more money, they were working, they didn't have to work weekends. Our people only had to work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. They got their Saturdays and Sundays back because we were so efficient and able to meet our leasing goals in a more effective manner because technology was handling the mundane ridiculousness that we have to do. And our people could focus on the movement, not motions. And we were able to lease quicker, less costly. My marketing budget, I was actually the one marketing director that advocated for a smaller budget because if we do these things, I won't need to spend the money like I'm doing to get volume because our people don't close at the rate we need because they're trying to keep up with everything. And so I would look at this as an opportunity. Hopefully, your company is providing ample information so that you can make a great decision. That's on them, and we owe that to our employees. But as an employee on site, I would look at that as a great and exciting opportunity to be part of something that takes the company really forward and leverages your skills.
I instantly, when you were talking, instantly went to the movie Hidden Figures and
Yeah.
about NASA.
Great movie.
And they were, Octavia Spencer's character is like, they worked in the calculation room at the time, right? And then they got the computer, and so she had a choice, right? That character had a choice to either say, "Oh wow, this is going to take my job," and boohoo is me, and kind of like go on, or and what she did is she says, "Well, someone's going to have to run the computer."
So she learned how to work the
So she
computer.
learned the computer to become the supervisor of that, and not only, and then she kind of brought the people with her, right? So she was like, "I'm going to learn it, and now guess what? I don't want you to be out of the job." And so in my mind, I instantly went to, "This is the opportunity," right? Because in a normal leasing model, and how we've always done everything up and for the most part until about COVID, right? It was there was the growth pattern was linear, right? You were a leasing, you became maybe a leasing manager if you had that assistant, and we know and studies show over and over, most of the best leasing people are horrible assistant managers because they don't like that,
It's a
right? But
whole nother skill set.
like we don't want to have those tough conversations about rent, and resident issue and all that, and then you become a
Uh-huh.
manager, right? So you did not have a lot of room for growth paths that these types of models do. So was that something you took into factor and like you communicated to your on-site teams?
Oh, yes. And so as we were developing this, the conversation quickly turned into what pathway will our people have under this? Where's their growth pattern? And many, many companies, not all, but a lot of companies, multifamily is not exclusive to this. If an employee in one role is doing really well, we think, let's just promote them into the next role that has nothing to do with what they were just doing. And they're going to be great, right? No. More often than not, you're not placing the right people in the right seat. And that costs your company a lot in trying to rehire, retrain, and the cost of someone not being fully effective in the role. And so it was very intentional on our end that we communicated what the growth pattern would look like, what the opportunities were, and our people were really excited. We actually surveyed our people. We leveraged a surveying company to do out all of our employee surveys prior to the announcement. That way, we were able to gauge, okay, on our standard model, this is how our people are satisfied or not. The numbers were less than ideal. We then surveyed our specialized team and our on-site managers. I want to be clear, we did not remove everyone from on-site. We still had a community manager and our service team on site. Now, if a group of properties were in a short, small location, maybe we did have an area manager that could bounce between those communities, but we still had an on-site representation. We felt that that was still really crucial. We surveyed them after the pilot was done, a 90% increase in employee satisfaction. They felt like they were making a greater impact. They felt like their skills were better leveraged. They felt like they were clearer on the goals, and they felt like they were contributing at a greater level. That is what we want out of our people. And subsequently, as a result, because we survey all of our prospects and all of our residents regularly, I tracked all of that ahead of the pilot. I tracked it on the communities we piloted on before we rolled it out across the portfolio. Same exact result, a 90 again, which was weird. I checked, I had to triple check that because I'm like, wait a minute, why are these the same? 90% increase in resident satisfaction. And then we saw renewals go up. And then we saw prospects, conversion ratios go up. And then we saw our occupancy go up quicker in shorter time periods. And then we saw our economic occupancy ability to raise rents because we were able to justify that. And it made the company money with less overhead costs than a traditional model. And so it penciled out for the employee, it penciled out for the company, and the employee felt like they were making a greater impact when they made the change.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense why you saw those numbers go up, right? Because now you have designated people to do those jobs, right? So you're a resident, you have a designated resident specialist
You do.
who, you know, when you're in a traditional model, everyone's in the office, the phones are ringing off the hook, people are coming in, right? Like, I
You
think
might
that
get whoever answers the phone.
whoever, if they answer the phone, right? Because
Well,
we know
there's that.
that's the one of the number one issues and complaints that we hear all the time, right? Like, no one in the office answers. They don't answer the phone. So so I think that shift kind of allows now the residents feel taken care of, because again, something else we hear is like, they're really great when they want your money, when they're trying to close on you, right? They're really great, they're responsive and all that, and then you move in and they're like,
They forget about you.
womp,
Or,
womp.
well, I've been working with Sally, but it's a revolving door in that office, and I never know who I can talk to, and I have to re-explain my situation every time.
Right.
When you have a designated representative, a designated specialist to your community, they were able to do several communities. They felt heard. They, that representative knew them well. They made sure their whole job was to ensure satisfaction, resolve issues quickly, work with the on-site team to make those things happen quicker than they would naturally, and then ultimately ask for the renewal.
Yeah.
And so we saw all of that improve, and the company started humming along even more. And we were able to reduce expenses in many of our areas, marketing included. And we still absolutely were able to do what we needed to do. But think about it. If my conversion ratios are low, I need volume, and that takes money. If my conversion ratios are high, my team is well oiled and they are specialized and they're doing a really great job, they don't need as much volume to close at the rate we need. And so I don't have to spend as much on trying to flood them with nonsense leads, because most of them aren't qualified. And, we don't have a way to do that, pre-qualified people really, truly. And it was a waste of their time. Now they're talking to more authentic people who are really interested. They're able to give those virtual and self-guided tours, and they still have on-site representation, and we're able to resolve their resident issues really quickly and ensure satisfaction. How many times can we genuinely say that our on-site teams called after every work order to ensure satisfaction? How many times can we say our on-site team checked in with every resident on a monthly basis to ensure all satisfaction? We can't.
Right.
More often than not, you can't. This way, we were able to. And then one of the nice things was having it at corporate, we were able to see our leasing process unfold in front of us. We were able to see inefficiencies quickly. We were able to resolve issues a lot quicker instead of on site. Oh, well, this so and so resident has this legal problem and it's going to be this process. Let me take it to my regional. Well, then the regional community manager probably going back and forth before they ultimately have to take it to legal at corporate. Whereas here, it goes right to our head lead of our specialized model. She takes it right to our legal, and issues are resolved much quicker.
Yeah. So you
It's
said
just
something
better.
I want to like talk about from like the customer experience part of it, right? So your people got to have their weekends back, so it means they weren't working weekends. So let's talk about the touring process. Like, what did that look like in this special model? You hinted at like self-guided and virtual tours. Were those the only two options?
Well, those obviously aren't the only two options, but what we chose to do is we took two assets in our pilot, two very different assets, a high rise in Chicago, a garden style in Greenwood, Indiana. Average age in Chicago of demographic 32. Average age in Greenwood 44 those were our demographics. So very different. And we chose that on purpose. If it can work at both in this pilot, it can work for any of our properties because that represented our portfolio. And we wanted to test the theory of no guided tours. Let's see how that works. If it doesn't work, we'll switch them right back on and we'll have to figure that out. So we offered self-guided tours at both communities 7 days a week between the hours of 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. You could tour self-guidedly. From there, Monday through Friday, though, you could do a virtual tour from 9 to 5 in both time zones. And our team would do the virtual tour at corporate with videos that the on-site team recorded And we had the partner come in and do the initial recordings, but then thereafter, our on-site team would record every unit as they got it ready once a resident moved out. And that way we had a whole library. You want to see your exact unit? Great. Click. Here is your exact unit that you want and that you're looking for. And you're able to tour it. And what we saw was it did not negatively impact our leasing. It actually went up. And so we were able to confirm no guided tours. Therefore, you don't need to work weekends anymore. On-site team, congratulations. I mean, that when was the last time? I mean, sometimes with lease ups, it's like, we're at 90. You don't need to work Sundays now, but Saturdays, you better keep it up. That's their reward. They get Sunday off. Are you kidding? Our employees are not looking at other multifamily jobs necessarily. They're comparing us to other industries that leverage similar skills. Oftentimes they don't have to work weekends. Sometimes they're 4 days a week. Sometimes they're remote jobs with way better benefits and pay better. So why are we setting ourselves up as a company to not meet this employee market where they are and where they're going? Because if we don't, our workforce fades away, and it affects the clients. And so our prospect satisfaction actually went up because they again had a designated person. If they spoke with this leasing specialist from the start of their lead through their tour, through their leasing questions until they signed, they had that one person all the way through on that journey with them. So that improved our ability to control quality, but B, their experience. And so they were way more comfortable signing because they were with someone that understood them along the way.
How did you communicate that message to the consumer, right? Because it's not the norm in the industry, right? And I I've toured lots of properties, and sometimes I don't know what I'm walking into, right? I don't know if I'm walking into a self-guided tour because I just assumed that that wasn't it, and or a virtual tour. I don't know what I'm going to get, right? Am I going to just get a video? Like, are you going to send me a YouTube video and call that a virtual tour?
Right.
I've seen a slideshow like with photos that they've called a virtual tour. Am I going to get a
Oh,
Matterport tour?
Lord.
Like
Right.
whatever
Right.
those things are, right? So how did you kind of communicate that to the customer so they knew exactly,
What they're getting into.
yeah, what their expectation is, so that way there wasn't surprises.
Right. It's funny. We often talk about how do we train our prospects? How do we train our clients or residents? We don't have to train them because outside of multifamily, let's just take a step back from our bubble and look at how people live their lives today in America. We have choices for everything. We can customize anything we want, and it can be exactly how we want it in whatever the way is most convenient for us. We're very spoiled. And there is obviously this big push for self service. And I'll do it on my terms. I'll do it when I want and how I want to do it. And then why do we, in one of the biggest decisions of their life, of where they're going to live, that's a big decision. Why do we pigeonhole them into, you need to do it our way? And even whether that's convenient for you or not. Oh, well, we're going to give you choices. Pick your a la carte, your tour, your experience. And so how we communicated that was a self-guided tour. And if they clicked on that, they could click the scheduler. They could schedule that. They would immediately, once they confirm that, would be sent an email with all of the instructions that they need. They would not get the access code yet, but they would be told where they need to be. A pre-guided map already would be generated for that specific unit that we had, along with any instructions that they needed. This was their time window and date. And then as they got within about 5 miles, I think was the radius we gave, and or 30 minutes before their tour, that's when they would get the access code generated automatically to access the apartment. The virtual tour, I feel like there is such a varying, like you mentioned, opinion on what is a virtual tour. So we set the expectation. We do not consider a Matterport a virtual tour. That's a click-through tour. We don't consider a pre-recorded video necessarily that's just sent out through YouTube as a virtual tour. We consider it a live video tour. So you were on live, like you and I are, with our leasing specialist, with content of the community, the amenities, the specific unit type. If we didn't have that specific unit yet recorded by the on-site team, we had that unit type recorded. And so they were able to show one of those two things. and answer any questions. It was our leasing specialist job. We put them through very thorough training on those different communities, the selling points, the features of each of those communities that they oversaw. And so we made sure that when they scheduled a live video tour, it was very clear from the beginning, you'll be speaking live with an agent and then be able to view our community through virtually recorded videos live with our agent to answer any questions you might have. And then they would, of course, get the confirmation. So the prospect knew what they were walking into, or rather dialing on to, and they were able to do it in a way that met whatever is convenient for them. We'd have people tour on their morning commute. We would have people in their car at lunch waiting, eating while they're touring because they're able to do it that way. They don't have to take time out of their day, really, after work to go tour. When most of our communities probably close at 6 p.m. and people don't get out of work till 5, we're making them come within an hour, hoping traffic's not
Starting
bad.
at 5:30, because we need
Oh,
30 minutes to like give you the tour
exactly.
out and then all of that.
Right, right.
I totally agree that we kind of have to look outside because when I go to Vegas, like I can go onto the Caesars app and I will click through and like I will pick my room based off the Matterport tour, right? They all there is like Matterport tours. But I also think this offers another unique point for the prospect, right? I'm talking to one person that now can cross sell multiple communities. So if you're in this little area, and maybe you're calling about property A because that's the first property that caught your eye, and you're telling them here's, the prospect's getting into these needs and wants because you have to in a specialized model if you're going to be, and you say something about you need large closets and you explain the large closet. Well, this person knows that you're talking to that property A does not have great closet space for what you're looking for. But you know what, Tyler, half of a mile or a mile away that you may not be aware of is we have another community that has larger closet space. Is that something you're interested in? So I feel like it opens up this unique way to enhance the prospect's experience way beyond just property A. But it also helps them not having to put in 10 guest cards and getting the same response over and over
Uh-huh.
and over. I
Yep.
mean, I've been shopping digitally lately, and it's like I can tell what software people use by the messages because they're all the same. And then like the subject line is the same because now the only thing switched out is the property name. And it's just like if I'm putting it all and then they all come in at the same time because a
The
prospect doesn't,
timing's all the same.
it's all the same in these automations.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm overwhelmed. So I'm just gonna go with the last one that I did. So I think it kind of has that unique perspective as well for prospects.
It does. It really does. And not only prospects, but also residents. Again, they were with that resident relations specialist. And so working along the journey, they're going to be like, I really do love it here. You guys do a great job, but we need more space. And you don't offer 3 bedrooms. That resident relations specialist is going to be very versed in our other community right down the road that, oh, well, no worries. We can transfer you to our community a half mile down the road that does have 3 bedrooms. Let me hear. Here's the video tour pre-recorded for that unit type. Take a look at it. Let me know your thoughts. I'll follow up with you here in 24 hours. And then you don't lose that resident in one
Or
form or another.
the process of like, okay, so you need to go there and you need to apply with them, and then
Right.
they need
Right.
to send us this form, and then we have to scan all this stuff over. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
And
we make
yeah.
the
And
process like so many hurdles where like most residents at point are like, if I'm gonna have to do all that, I'm just gonna go to your competitor because
yeah.
that's
I have to do that it's like a new lease anyway. So
yeah,
why do I bother? Right.
right.
Where
And I'm
that,
probably gonna get a really great special there anyways, and you're
there's
not
that.
gonna do that. So
So it really does enhance, it meets our clients where they are in the moment and where they're going, where they've been, honestly, for some time. Like you stated at the beginning, multifamily, we tend to be a lot slow to adopt. And it took a pandemic, a global pandemic, for us as an industry to look at, oh, maybe we should do things a little differently. And so I can tell you from an employee perspective, there is not a management company out there that has not thought of, is not thinking of, or has not implemented a centralized, specialized model. Even the people who are, even the companies who are really adverse to that and don't want to do it, they've thought about it. They have thought about it. It has been pushed in our face enough. All these conferences, all these industry trends, all this great data behind it, and how it's wonderful the employee and the company, they've thought about it. They have ran the numbers. And so it's essential, I think, as an on-site employee to really think about where do you want your growth, your career growth to be, and find those skills that you have, know yourself, really polish them and position yourself to be that star first in line when and if your company chooses to implement it. Or find a company that does and allows you that flexibility as an employee. I mean, it's not going to take me saying leave companies that aren't. Employees are already doing that because they see the benefits of companies who have done it. And it's where our people are. And you have to meet people where they're at. You have to.
Yeah. I mean, I think as if someone were to approach me and saying, hey, I'm a leasing agent, but I really think we have an opportunity in this market because you know what, we have 4 properties in a mile radius. We should be exploring this centralized model. That shows maturity, that shows growth,
Solution driven.
yeah, you're
Oh,
bringing it to me. So you're setting yourself up as a leasing agent to say, this is what we need to do. And this is why, because we spent so much time prior to these types of models talking about, did you sell your sister property? Do you know your sister property? And I'm just like, so we've already kind of been doing this whole time, but why not just kind of be able to track it and give them the tools and that kind of thing. So,
well, and look at your competitors in your market and who's out leasing you, and go and do a little research on that company to see, is that how they're doing it? How are they attracting these people better? It's not just the physical marketability. We always think about that. Oh, it must be price or the product. It's one or the other. It's rarely the people. Well, it could be. In fact, it usually is. I mean, if they're willing to tour your community, the product has already met enough of their standards. They've already determined that online that, okay, I can work with this, and okay, I know the price ish. It's within my budget. At that point, it's you as the employee that makes or breaks it. And so really look at those competitors, and you know your markets, or at least you should, and to position yourself. I would have absolutely any day of the week heard someone out, leasing consultant, assistant community manager, whatever. I would have heard them out on that kind of idea. Absolutely.
well, Tyler, we are at the end of time, but if people wanted to reach out to you, learn more about what you've done, what you're doing, where can they find you?
Yeah, all the channels, all the things, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, email, tmarker at jturnerresearch.com, like, wherever. But I love answering questions about it. It's not a one size fits all solution. I feel like we as an industry think, oh, centralized, it must look like this. How do we fit our company to that? No, start with, okay, you want to be more efficient. Okay, you want to leverage your people better. Let's find a way, let's find a version of that that fits your company. So it's not a one size fit all. And so if anyone has questions, they're welcome to reach out anytime.
And like I always say to people, you don't have to start with leasing, right? Maybe you start with collection.
Accounting's actually really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, accounting's really nice to start with.
the easy part, right? Our payment process or that, and
So,
you test that out. You test those people, and then you can start finding these other ways. Once you kind of have your process in place, start with the easy thing, and then figure out, okay, what's going to work for us. So, Tyler, thank you so much for having this conversation with me today. It's been a pleasure talking. I mean, we could probably went on for hours on this matter, but to the listeners, thank you so much. You have been listening to Rooms with Ronald. Today's host has been Tyler Marker, Director of Enterprise for J. Turner Research. And until next time, guys, happy leasing. Bye.
bye.
Thank you for tuning in today. I hope I left you with some fresh ideas or a new perspective. Leasing and marketing are evolving rapidly, and Rooms with Ronald is committed to offering a place to hear about those changes. We also celebrate and acknowledge the fundamentals of exceptional service that will never go out of style. So if you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, or subscribe. Visit multifamilymedianetwork.com to learn more about our other exceptional industry podcasts, thought pieces, and sponsorship opportunities.